Ghazali's contribution to yes, exactly. The contribution of Al-Ghazali to the discussion of philosophers' ideas was very well known, of course. So the present contemporary representation of this problem is the question of secularism versus Islamic education. And this has come very sharp and very strong. I also attribute this conflict to the fact that many Muslims who study Quran, study the Sunnah, when they go to the West, especially to America, they are shocked by the enormity of knowledge that Western societies enjoy, and yet all that knowledge is completely devoid of any knowledge of religion. Not only that, but there is a certain sense of hostility towards religion in the secular approach to knowledge. The Quran, I've written about 2 pages about the concept of knowledge in the Quran, just to bring to our attention the fact that for anyone who has read the Quran and understood it, it's very difficult to accept that knowledge can be departed or dissociated from the mind, that you can have secular knowledge and religious knowledge apart. To put this in clear terms, look at, for example, the question of the creation of man. The creation of man in the Quran is intentional, is a plan, is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. And the creation of man is associated with knowledge, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the malaika, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And he tells Adam, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ. So it's not only the creation is associated with knowledge, also the merit of man, the human being, is due to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed this new creature with a certain knowledge that is not being granted to other creation. So the favor of man over the other creation is a Quranic concept. In addition to that, the Quran makes it very clear that knowledge, however huge and enormous, without a consciousness of the hereafter, is not knowledge. ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا وهم عن الآخرة هم غافلون. So if we know a lot about this world, but we are unaware, unconscious of the hereafter, we don't have a consciousness of God, then that knowledge is futile. Because the whole world is going to end, and we don't have a consciousness of the next, which is coming and which is eternal. With this kind of knowledge, when we come to the West, and we are required to think that everything that is revealed is irrelevant, that is very shocking to the Muslim intellectuals. And the modern response to this has been in the foundation of IIIT and the foundation of IIUM, but particularly IRKHS, which is now named, alhamdulillah, after Dr. Abdulhamid Abusulayman. But of course, the plan Abdulhamid Abusulayman had in mind was to allow the students to study Quran, study one aspect of the human sciences, and for these sciences to be brought together in not only in one place but also in the same mind, integration of knowledge. They call it Islamization of knowledge, but I think Islamization of knowledge is probably, as some scholars have claimed, one of them was the Malaysian Dr. Al-Attaz, may give the sense that you want to make knowledge Muslim, as maybe literally understood from the question Islamization. But that is not, of course, the intention. The intention is to desecularize knowledge. However, the desecularization of knowledge is only the first phase. I argue in this paper that desecularization of knowledge is only the first phase. The second phase is to allow a Muslim thinker through ijtihad to think freely in his own discipline, for example, human psychology, political science, anthropology, sociology, whatever, to think in new terms and to take into account what concepts we have in the Quran and in the Sunnah. This is something that the secular approach, which is predominant in most universities, unfortunately, even in the Muslim world, something that is completely absent now. The introduction of this has been attempted here in IRKHS, but in the same paper, I make effort to see whether this has been possible. I think the main constraints to achieving that purpose was that the students who came to the Kulliyah were coming from two different backgrounds. Some of them came from an Islamic school background, others were coming from a regular school background, a secular school background. Some of them were well versed into the Arabic language and the religious knowledge. Others were completely without any knowledge of the language of Arabic, but maybe better in English. And since the university has got only English and Arabic as as a medium of instruction, the difficulties that were faced by students in the lecture hall were enormous, mainly linguistics. That was the time where Abdulhamid gave very strong attention to matriculation. For 2 years, the students were allowed to study mainly English and the Arabic language and to complement their studies in such a way that they will be able, when they come to the university, to at least understand and follow up on the subjects of their studies. But when I came here in 1989, I went back in 1990, the students were still facing difficulties. I'm not quite sure what happened after that. I understand that the situation became better because of the impact of matriculation. However, at that time, it was necessary to adapt the courses and the syllabuses to the needs and to the limitations of the students. As such, to expect these students to be able to become mujtahids was far-fetched. Ijtihad is not possible at that stage, but I assume that it was going to be possible later on when the students do masters and PhDs. This is why in my paper I suggest that a research or a project of research, a number of researches be taken to evaluate the impact of the Kulliyah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and to find out where these graduates have gone. Now I think more than 20,000 perhaps are graduates of that Kulliyah. I want to know, perhaps you all want to know, whether they have achieved some of the goals of the Kulliyah, whether they have really contributed to the study of sciences in a new way, in a new approach. I also suggest that the university goes back to the original plan where it becomes an international university, with the staff being elected and chosen purposefully to do this job, because this is not a traditional job of a university. This is not for ordinary universities to do. If you're going to do research and change the course of knowledge, then you have to have very special cadres of intellectuals, and you have to go to do intensive research. Another suggestion I make in my paper is that research be given a special place. Centers of research must be financed and must be human resource equipped with, so that they are able to do research in the different fields of knowledge from a new look, an Islamic look. And that will probably end up producing literature better even than we already have. Alhamdulillah, IIIT have produced many very useful books in the human sciences and in other, like administration, political science, others, which have contributed to at least sensitizing the Muslim intellectuals about the need for an Islamic approach to knowledge. That needs to be complemented by the efforts in IIUM here in Malaysia, and inshallah this will be possible in the future. I also end up with with what I started with. I know Abdulhamid Abusulayman as a very visionary man, and not only that, but he was a very vigorous follow-up person. His impact on the different institutions which he established can be felt now by everybody. And Alhamdulillah, his vision has been precipitated in a number of institutions. This is one of them. We are coming here for the same purpose. And Alhamdulillah, inshallah, نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يغفر له ويرحمه ويجعل هذه الجامعة وكل ما ينتج عنها في ميزان حسناته إن شاء الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.